I'm here with Ross Herr from Dynafit, and today we're going to talk about a couple new products that are a bit different than what some people might have come to expect from Dynafit over the past few years. But to start, why don't you just get into the background of these skis and this boot and how they came to be?
Yeah. No, I think you're right. People are maybe going to be a little surprised to see us skiing a lot more chairlifts in the future, which it's a lot of fun. I mean, I think for us as a team, it's all skiing, and just kind of throw back to our heritage a little bit. Franz Klammer kind of had, the wildest Olympic gold downhill run, totally putting it all out there. And, for the brand, it's kind of the same sort of experience. We're putting it all out there to, kind of blur the lines a little bit between alpine and touring skiing.
Gotcha. So I guess we can start with the boot. It is the Tigard 130. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you've got like the Radical series. This boot shares the Hoji lock walk mechanism, but how would it compare to Dynafit's other fairly stiff but touring oriented boots?
Yeah. So this replaces the Free 130. And the Free 110. So the Tigard boot will come in two different versions, a 130 and a 110 flex. It'll have that Hoji lock, but integrates into the power strap and two buckles in the cuff, where the Radical cuff is just the one singular buckle there. It's going to be a little bit of a taller boot, and it's going to have like a more traditional overlap and, four buckles. So it'll feel a little bit more at home, it'll feel familiar if you've never been in a touring boot before. Like sometimes the boot combinations and the way that the overlaps work is a little bizarre. In this boot, we were able to get really good range of motion, so 70-degree range of motion in a four buckle overlap, which is pretty huge. So coming into the category, like what Dynafit doesn't want to compromise is efficiency, like making it really comfortable to walk. Like that's, if you see our name, we want you just assume and expect and count on that being the best part. I think that's what Hoji really brought to our boot program with that Hoji lock mechanism. A huge bomber, interface between the cuff and the shell. Really efficient range of motion and just the ease of use for it. And so we've proven that in the Radical collection and even in the Free collection, and now we were able to make a little bit more space between the two, where Radical is going to be your best touring boot for longer days. It's going to be a little bit easier to walk in just because of the way that it's built out. But the Tigard boot is going to bring you that same familiarity into a more front side oriented kind of hybrid, little bit of everything shape.
In terms of fit, how does the Tigard compare to the Radical?
So the Tigard's is going to be a little bit more low volume. It also has a kind of a fuller liner, so it's going to have a little bit more protection. If you're skiing at the resort, conditions are a little bit more firm. Skis might be a little bit bigger. That interface and protection you need from the shell needs to come up a little bit. So the liner itself has a Primaloft liner in it, actually, so it's super warm. And it's Dynafit or 15, so it's a 15 mil liner, where the Radical liner is a 10 mil liner.
Gotcha.
So it's just got a little bit more padding, a little bit more protection, a little bit thicker tongue, kind of the things that you need just to be able to push into the boot a little bit more.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. We've talked a lot about how we have some really lightweight boots that ski really well these days, but when you are bashing resort laps, a bit of a cushion can go a long way.
Yeah, once you have the difference when your boot has a walk mechanism on it and you walk in it, things change from alpine. When everything's rigid and fixed and it never opens up, you can fit the boot differently and everything can, so you do have to take a different approach to a touring boot fit and development as well, right? Like the liner has to be efficient and comfortable and walk with you. So, we break around the Achilles, we create some space so that it flexes more naturally. But it's a lot more wear and tear. When you're moving and walking, like a day of walking is way more than a day of skiing at the resort. So, for this liner, I'm really proud of it. It's warm, it's got a really good range of motion, but it's by far the most protective liner we've ever had. So we want people to use this liner, not feel like it's a throwaway to then, put in something big and beefy for the resort that they can't tour in, right? we really wanted to like keep something specific to this category.
So you mentioned 70 degrees range of motion.
Yeah.
There's a 130 and a 110. What are we talking about in terms of weights?
Yeah, 1,550 grams.
Okay.
So super lightweight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the Dynafit approach is it's low tech. Low tech was, when Fritz invented the binding, that was kind of the claim, because at that point everything was like high tech. How do we make it as fancy as possible, right? Fritz took the approach of like, well, fancy can be nice, but is it reliable? Can you take it really far out there? Can you repair it? Is it fixable? All those things. And so like we want to keep things as low tech as possible still in our development, so that we have a lifetime warranty. So like lifetime guarantee on like all of our products, so we're building them out so that if you ever have any problems, we can send you a new buckle, we can switch you out, you can cover it. And so if we overdid things, that weren't reliable, how could we service it? All of those things came into play for us. And so 4 buckles, really, really simple, and when you kind of take it down to like, what do you just need and how do you develop it? The weight was, a byproduct in this case. We didn't engineer to that weight, but we're really proud of like where it came in at.
Cool. So now we talked about the Tigard boot. Tell me about the Tigard ski.
Yeah, so in Dynafit, we build in systems. Like, so we kind of take it, like as a brand, we talk about wearing lots of different hats, but like, so we have the racer, and that persona is like all about being crazy efficient, super lightweight, moving really fast, crazy transitions, like that's kind of an extreme, right? But it's influenced a lot of like what all of our brands are doing, From there, we have kind of call it the speed customer. So that customer is going to be influenced by what the racer approach to things are, but they're more worried about just getting further in the day. It's not about the time, but they want to, maybe ski 3 peaks or do a couple of laps. So, where we build in that category, things are lighter, but they need to ski better. They need to be really reliable, bigger skis, a little bit bigger boots. Radical is our touring collection. So that's like, I would say just like quintessential, like best day, walking out, getting really good runs. And then Tigard is this, hey, I need one setup. I'm going to go on vacation. I'm going to tour. I'm going to ride the chairlift. I'm going to do a little bit of everything. And, I want the mass that's going to make the resort ski day a little bit better, but it can't be too much because, I want to keep up with my friends and go get a good lap. So those are the 4 personas, and we build head to toe in those categories. So we go, all through all the details of like, what do you need on that day for it to be perfect? So like, how do you need to layer? How, like, what are all the different pieces? Like, how much stuff are you going to fit in your backpack? So we have a 24-liter backpack for this. It's a really good, comfortable thing to ski at the resort and take for a side country lap. A really cool Gore-Tex, full apparel outfit, and then the ski boot binding combo, all under that Tigard name. So from the boot, that 130 boot, that same approach was taken to the ski, where we were able to open up and have a ski with a little bit more mass so that it can push through, more variable conditions, bigger swings in temperature, skied up terrain, but balance that where we're not going to be too heavy to go walking in. So we're, and we got to test in a little bit bigger ski too, so 188, which is pretty fun. Okay. A lot of times we'll start like a little bit smaller and then build around both sides. But for this ski, we really kind of started at like the top. So it's a 114 underfoot, 188. It'll come in a 180 and a 188. So just 2 lengths to get started. It's a full poplar core, ABS sidewalls, and really this was, it's directional, so it is like a ski that's made to kind of like dream ski, pick out that line and kind of just see yourself skiing through it and have something really, really stable underfoot. So you've got a pretty full tail, a little bit of turn up just to kind of help let it release a little easier. A balanced rocker, I'd say. It's not too abrupt, it's not too low, and just a little bit of a camber pocket underfoot. So I find like the ski is still pretty quick, edge to edge, and pretty easy to break free to slarv or just kind of check speed. But it's a 22-meter radius, so it can really like lay down a pretty fast arc as well. So yeah, it's been a really fun project for us.
Sweet. How would you relate it to, say, the Radical series of skis in the lineup?
Yeah, so like the Radical skis, yeah, it's a great one. So like what we used to consider the free skis, so the free 107 and the free 97, you know, those skis, you know, now that we've made a little bit more space, those skis are actually coming into the Radical collection. So the Radical boot and that ski, like in practice, that's always how we kind of like skied, you know, like we were skiing Radical boots and the free 107 for our favorite day of ski touring. And so it's kind of just like we didn't, I think maybe the timing in which we developed each category. So because we developed the Radical ski originally for the Freeride sort of customer, but we made it so lightweight, that ski is still really stable, but it's very, very light. So comparing it to that, the mass of this ski will make it blast through and be more stable and a lot more damp. I think this is probably the most damp ski we've ever made that's still sub 2,000 grams.
Gotcha.
So,
I was just going to ask what's the weight coming in at for like the 188?
Yeah, just under 2,000 grams.
Got it.
Yeah, which
Cool.
is a pretty cool weight to be able to tour in. Like it's something for me, you know, playing that, you know, there's, you know, your favorite ski and you're like, would you really ever put a touring binding on it? Maybe not, you know. But this is really something that we want you to put a touring binding on it. We want you to go for a walk and enjoy it, but it's just as at home on the resort.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for running us through the products. We're shooting this the very first morning of on snow testing quite early, so we haven't skied them yet, but I'm very much looking forward to trying them out.
Right on.